13 dribbles, 1 turnover, no pass. Welcome back to WNBA Show, where we break down what really happened behind the headlines. That sequence you just saw wasn't a fluke. That was the Indiana Fever's offense in a single play. Kelsey Mitchell, ball in hand, dribbling in circles while Caitlin Clark stands in the corner doing absolutely nothing. 13 dribbles, no movement, no decision, and then a turnover. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about what's going wrong in Indiana right now, nothing will. Here's what makes this so frustrating to watch. You have arguably the most electric playmaker in the WNBA today standing on the wing with no ball, no action, no purpose. And instead of feeding her the rock, the ball goes to die in the hands of a player who simply will not give it up. This isn't one bad night. This isn't a slump. This is a pattern. And the coaching staff is watching it happen over and over without any visible correction. Let's be honest about what this offense looks like right now. It's stagnant, it's predictable, and it's costing this team wins they should not be losing. When your primary ball handler is using 13 dribbles on a single possession, you are not running an offense. You are running down the shot clock and hoping something accidentally works. That is not basketball at this level. That is not how you build around a generational talent. And that's the part that needs to be said clearly. Caitlin Clark is a generational talent, not a good player, not a promising rookie still finding her way, a generational playmaker who changes how defenses have to operate the moment she steps on the floor. She creates space just by being there. She threatens the defense from 40 feet out. She sees passes before the play develops. She is the reason this team should be impossible to guard. And right now, she is being completely marginalized by a system that doesn't seem built for her at all. Watch any Indiana Fever possession that breaks down and trace it back. How often does the ball move through Clark before it stalls? How often is she cutting, relocating, demanding the ball while the primary handler just keeps dribbling? She is doing everything right within the offense and getting nothing back. That is not a personnel problem. That is a structural failure at the coaching level. Now compare that to what is happening right now in Minnesota. Cheryl Reeve was asked recently about how she coaches Olivia Miles on her passing decisions, and her answer was simple: she doesn't. Reeve said she stays completely out of the way of that part of Miles' game because the instincts are already there. She said Miles sees it before everyone else. She knows who's open before the defender even commits, and Reeve's job is to build a system that trusts that and gets out of the way. That is the philosophy of a championship-level coaching staff. Trust your best playmakers. Build around their strengths. Let the game flow through the people who can actually make it work. Now, ask yourself this. Have you ever heard Stephanie White talk about Caitlin Clark with that same level of trust? Has she ever publicly said she is building the offense around Clark's vision, that she is designing plays to let Clark's instincts take over? If you have heard that, someone needs to point it out, because what we are seeing on the floor tells a completely different story. Olivia Miles is 11 games into her rookie season, 11 games, and she is already averaging 17 points, 5 rebounds, and over 6 assists per game. She is one of the most dynamic players in the league right now, and it is not even close. Dallas invested in her, built around her immediately, and the returns are already showing up on the scoreboard. That is what happens when a coaching staff actually believes in a young player and structures their system accordingly. Indiana has Caitlin Clark, a player with measurably more experience, more visibility, more proven playmaking ability, and somehow the conversation around Indiana is not about how Clark is thriving, it is about why she isn't. That gap does not exist because Clark is underperforming. It exists because the system she is in is not designed for her to succeed. And here is where the Natasha Howard situation becomes impossible to ignore. Everyone wrote off Natasha Howard, 34 years old, coming off a stretch that made people genuinely wonder if her best basketball was behind her. The general take was that she was washed, finished, a veteran on the back end of her career with nothing left to prove because she had already proven she couldn't keep up anymore. Then she left Indiana. Now she is averaging 17 points a game, nearly 8 rebounds, she is shooting 64% from the field, she has more assists than she's had in years, more steals, more production across the board compared to her time under Stephanie White. She didn't find some hidden reservoir of talent she never had before. She didn't reinvent herself overnight. She just got into a system that actually used her correctly, and she exploded. When a player leaves a coaching environment and immediately posts the best numbers of their recent career, you do not blame the player. You look at the system they just escaped from. That is the only logical conclusion. The talent was always there. The environment was the problem. Now take that logic and apply it to what is happening with Clark right now. If a 34-year-old veteran can go from looking finished to posting elite numbers the moment she changes her environment, what is happening to Clark inside this system? What is being suppressed? What version of Caitlin Clark are we not seeing because the structure around her is simply not built for her game? Those are not rhetorical questions. They're the questions this coaching staff needs to be answering publicly, and right now, they are not. There's also a history here that cannot be separated from the conversation. When Stephanie White was coaching at Vanderbilt, 3 of the program's best players made an extraordinary decision. They chose to sit out an entire year rather than continue playing for her. Think about what that means. These were not bench players with nothing to lose. These were the best players on the roster, and they looked at the situation and collectively decided that losing a full year of eligibility was worth it if it meant not playing in that system anymore. That is not a minor red flag. That is a massive organizational warning sign. When that many impact players choose to walk away from a program they were committed to, there is a serious leadership problem at the root of it. That is not coincidence. That is pattern recognition. And now we are watching something eerily similar play out in Indiana. Not players walking away, but talent being quietly neutralized. A star player standing in the corner while a lesser option dominates the ball. A veteran leaving and immediately becoming one of the most efficient players in the league. A rookie on another team already playing with more freedom and producing more than what the Indiana offense allows. The pieces keep pointing in the same direction. The thing that makes this so damaging for Indiana's long-term trajectory is not just the losses, it's what the losses are doing to the team's identity. When your players figure out that passing to the best playmaker on the floor does not result in better shots coming back to them, they stop moving, they stop cutting, they stop doing the off-ball work that makes modern NBA-level offenses actually function. Why work hard off the ball if the ball is never coming your way anyway? That is the invisible damage, the stuff that does not show up in any box score but absolutely destroys a team's cohesion over time. You can feel it when you watch Indiana play. The energy is wrong. The floor movement is stagnant. Players are not playing for each other. They are playing around a system that does not reward the right behaviors. Contrast that with what great coaching actually looks like. Cheryl Reeve is not micromanaging every pass Olivia Miles makes. She is trusting her. She is designing a system that puts Miles in positions where her instincts can take over. She is coaching to the player's strengths instead of forcing the player to fit a predetermined mold. That is what high-level coaching looks like, and the results are obvious. Indiana is capable of being that team. They have the talent to be that team. Caitlin Clark alone gives them a ceiling that most franchises in this league would trade everything to have. But talent doesn't overcome a misaligned system. History has proven that over and over, in every sport, at every level. The Natasha Howard situation already proved it this season. A player everyone considered finished walked into a better environment and became one of the most efficient forwards in the league. The talent was always there. The situation was the problem. If Indiana is serious about building something real around Caitlin Clark, something that actually competes for a championship and doesn't just generate highlights while losing close games, they have to be honest about what this coaching staff is and isn't doing. They have to ask whether the offensive philosophy is actually designed around the best version of this team. They have to look at the accountability structure and figure out why a ball-dominant guard can run 13 dribble possessions without visible correction from the sideline. Because right now, the answer to all of those questions is not good for the front office. 13 dribbles and a turnover is not just a bad play. It is the symbol of everything that is currently broken about this team's approach. It is the image of a star player standing still while someone else makes the wrong decision in slow motion. And until something changes structurally, until the coaching philosophy actually shifts to reflect the strengths of the roster, that image is going to define this era of Indiana Fever basketball. The talent is there, the potential is real, but talent without the right system is just a highlight reel for what could have been. Something has to give in Indiana. The question is whether the front office sees it clearly enough to act before it's too late. Drop your take in the comments. Do you think the coaching is the problem, or is this something else entirely? And if you are not subscribed yet, now is the time. We break down the real stories behind the WNBA every single week, and this conversation is just getting started.